Joel Elangwe. You're very welcome.
Thank you very
The
much.
name is Ekogwe.
Joel Ekobe.
Joel Ekogwe. I always get to miss that. Why?
Maybe because you're used to the
Elangwe.
the nickname
Joe Boy.
Joe Boy.
You're very welcome to the program.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
You know, you're one of those people who would always have the intent of coming to matters, especially High TV, to garnish some of our programs because it tallies with what sometimes you stand for, and sometimes something that you criticize, especially on your social media handle. Do you think this is something that has been your clarion call in our community? Do you think this is something that you feel the media is not hammering on enough? The waste disposal management.
I think that is true, very correct, because I am talking from the standpoint of I'm a citizen of Cameroon, and to be more precise, I live in a community, Mboya, to be more precise. I live in an area where waste disposal is
Very poor.
a cause for concern. And I think it's important for such issues to be talked about on the TV so that greater awareness is there's greater awareness, and most of the community is aware of the fact that the government has a role to play in this.
The government has a role to play in this from Mr. Joel Ekogwe, lecturer and student, and likewise a social commentator. Moving on to the next voice that we have on set today, no other person than somebody who always, has a huge appetite for political issues, and I got the privilege of meeting the young political analyst sometime last 2 years, and we were onto a very genuine exchange where he utterly told me his interest in politics, and taking to his social media handles you can see a lot, and he is somebody who writes a lot with blogs, and has been adding his little cent as far as political issues is concerned in Cameroon. No other person than Mr. Teddy Ako Njam. You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Ebro.
You wear a lot of hats, political analyst being just one of them. Recently you added entrepreneurship. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
So shortly in entrepreneurship, business, and the political side of it, how has it been a smooth sail for you?
Well, it has never been a smooth journey. We have ups and downs, but we are optimistic. So we just give God the glory that everything is going according to plan, because we're not expecting it to be easy. But then all the challenges that we encounter on the way, we are able to, to fight back.
About 2 years ago, when I got the privilege of meeting you, you actually opined that you had the appetite or the zest to be political analyst, and you showed me proof of some of your works on social media, writing with a lot of, political blogs and all of that. Do you think it's such a daring move to behold, considering that you're somebody who is very young and trying to engage in the political landscape in Cameroon?
Yeah, it is a very magnificent platform, I will say, to be privileged to talk about the societal ills that we are facing in our community today. When it comes to waste disposal and waste management, it is a very normal problem in our society. So to be called here today to talk about how we can reduce the impact of this waste loitering all over our environment, I think it is a privilege.
Thank you so much. It is a greater privilege instead having you on board and knowing that your voice today is going to affect the change. And talking about the change, there is somebody who is not easily moved, and it takes a lot of pains to bring this person on board because his voice is of tremendous impact on every show that he steps foot in. Stefan is actually a very young politician, and he has a lot when it comes to refining and reforming the political landscape. Stefan Nembu has been on several political debate shows in several media organs talking about how we can better Cameroon. You're very much welcome.
Well, thank you, Mabel. It's always a privilege to answer present whenever you ask me to show up. I want to say good evening to Kumba, good evening Yaoundé, good evening Betwa, good evening Akoloninga, and to say that I feel Cameroonian wherever I find myself, and to tell Cameroonians that I am their choice in 2032, and the journey starts now, and I look forward to remedy the ills of our society.
Being their choice, does that mean you intend to stand in as a
Exactly,
presidential candidate?
I'll be the president of this country in 2032.
Oh,
That's
really?
why it's a long journey, and I understand that it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to make it. Yeah.
Do
I'm
you
very certain.
do you already have a political party in the pipeline?
You know, politics is a strategy, and everybody has a way and a means of how he intends to achieve one or two things. I believe that I have that potential, that manpower, that force, that knowledge to actually take Cameroon to another level. Because what we have realized is that almost all the people who claim to be the leaders of today, those who are in their 80s, their 90s, I can call them fools at 40. So being wise and be smart at my age, I think it's important for me to galvanize youth, to start galvanizing youth now, and to see how we can take over this country in 2032.
Thank you. Talking about seeing how to take over the country, since you have the microphone, maybe I ask you. Looking at the stakes of things in a community, local administration and decentralization minister George Elanga Obam has, in his New Year speech, actually and categorically stated that waste disposal management is going to be at his center, at the heartbeat of his affairs, this 2024. Do you think that this is something that should be applauded? Do you think this is something of keen interest from the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development?
Maybe those who study international relations will maybe refer to a state as being a failed state when maybe the government in power does not have the capacity to maybe control, to have total control of the state territory. But I will go further to say that when you look at things in Cameroon, we can somehow consider Cameroon as a failed state. Everything in Cameroon is a total failure, both the state and the citizens, everything. Now, when we talk about waste management in Cameroon, we need to first of all use the top bottom approach to understand why there is so much debt. There are so much debt everywhere in our communities, and it is not all about criticizing. It's about giving solutions, because we can always sit here and criticize, and the most important thing is the way forward. We need the change. And now, coming back, when I talk about the top bottom approach, I'm talking about the state, the government, which is actually a laissez-faire government. And when I'm talking about a laissez-faire government, how did we get here? We have gotten here because of what we call the monopolization of power. When you are in a dictatorship like that of Cameroon, where someone has actually hijacked power and has shared power to some people who are actually answerable to him, and they just feel like they can do whatever they want to do. Now, the reality being that the CPDM has actually conquered the territory. I don't know whether I can say it legitimately or illegitimately, but we can totally say illegitimately, but that one is a debate for another day. Now, the CPDM, believing that they have their illegal ways, or irrational, or let's say yes, unconventional ways of getting power. When they come there, actually they are not patriots. They are not patriotic to actually understand that the interests of the state comes first before their own interests.
Now, but do you think that at this point, the poor level of waste disposal management, accounts for bad governance, or do you think it's the irresponsibility of our local authorities to be at the helm of what they are supposed to do?
Maybe I'm coming. What I'm saying is this: those who are actually governing us are not supposed to be there. That's why they are not actually patriotic. To be a mayor in Cameroon, it takes you to be the son of or the daughter of this person. Maybe you need to come from a royal home, maybe and all those things. So those people who comes there, instead of being good leaders, they become charlatans. And we see when you look at Buea, for instance, because you are in Buea, you pass everywhere, you see waste disposal. You see how the thing is just like when you go around Dongo field there. You see, I ask myself, am I still in Buea or I'm somewhere else? And to make you to understand that the governance is porous. Get inside the UB. You see trash cans everywhere in UB. Citizens, because I will come to the case of citizens. Citizens are conscious of the fact that they are supposed to throw their debts inside the trash can, of which they do. When you pass in UB, you see everywhere is always clean, which means that students in UB actually follow.
Before we take the part or the route of the responsibilities of citizens or denizens, which the inhabitants or the students in UB, the University of Buea, are denizens as well as citizens. You cited something about local authorities sitting, and because of nepotism or one thing, they occupy these positions. But don't you think that municipal authorities are representations of different political parties? SDF, we have mayors who are from SDF, we have others who are from MRC and all the like. So even if we are pointing accusing fingers at the interim government, does it mean that we should also point out at the other political affiliations?
Corruption starts from the top. If you look in Cameroon, you realize that Izakam is almost everywhere. Why is Izakam almost everywhere? Why is Izakam even everywhere? Izakam is not doing anything. Izakam is a total failure, but Izakam is still there because we understand that. That's why I say it's about leadership. It's about leadership. Izakam is not doing their job. The other time I met one Izakam guy and I was asking him, because I actually go close to them because I want to hear their own version. I don't just sit and take conclusion. And I asked him, when you leave garbage there at Ndongo or some areas in Buea, how do you guys feel? They said there is crisis. So people who are living around this environment, are they animals? Are they not living here? And people are not living here. They say there is crisis. So it means that some people they don't even know what to give as excuse to say that they are not actually doing their job. Of course, I will not blame them, because normally if you see those guys not doing anything, it means that their bosses, the people from the top, are not actually cautioning them or telling or sanctioning them. And if those at the top, which of course is Izakam, is not doing well, it means that there is no accountability at the level of contract, because every year there is a contract between the council and Izakam. I don't care whether the council is from the SDF or CPDM, but there is a contract, and it's the taxpayers' money. People who pay tax, the council collects money from Cameroonians, and they use it to actually for sanitary. But at the end of the day, the council does not take account, because of course we know that if the process was, how can I put it, transparent, you will see that there will be accountability, because in administration we say for there is no administration, there is no proper administration without accountability.
Okay, Mr. Joel Ekogwe, I want to find out, do you think for the decentralization and local development boss, George Obam, to, overtly mention that his intentions towards 2024 will be proper disposal and proper management of wastes, do you think something as trivial as that should even be the focus of the decentralization boss, or that's something that should be handled with a snap of the finger?
Well, I feel that the Ministry of Decentralization is coming at a time when there are so many problems within the country, and especially that affect the ministry. And obviously, with the many problems, they are trying to address them at the same time. Remember, decentralization is still being effective in the country, and is still to be accepted by many.
You think it's still to be accepted? Why
It's
so?
accepted because the head of state says he will speed up the process. So it means that it's a long process,
Okay.
which needs to be speed up because of the fact that the problems are there. The problems are there. We acknowledge the fact that the problems are there, but the ministry may not know which ones to address as key issues. But if they have discovered that the issue of waste management is important, it means they have gotten to the heart of the problem that we are facing as a community.
Now, for the decentralization boss to have said that he is going to make a proper waste disposal, a personal concern this 2024, and he's going to follow up the due process. Do you think that it gives us a feel that they are connected to the crisis of the people or what is happening on ground?
Okay, we are just beginning the year, so I cannot really tell if it gives us a feel, because from the past, the government has made promises, and we are still to get to a point where we believe that they can actually speed up the resolution of those problems. For example, proper waste management is it's a current worry.
The current crisis, I would like to say.
And if he has pinpointed the fact that waste management should be a priority in his administration, then I believe that for at least we can applaud them for the fact that they are beginning to feel the important needs of society. If you take, for example, you go down to Munya, if you look at the streets from my 18 towards Munya, you discover that on a day like Monday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, sometimes the garbage becomes more than Isakam to manage. And it gets to a point that when they have their internal crisis, it affects us because we can go for a whole week or more without, in fact, we will be swimming in garbage. We have already begun to live with it, learn to live with it. So
it's a part of us.
It's a part of us. And it gets to a point that, like the head of state said some time back, that even if we achieve emergence in 2035, if our mindset does not achieve emergence, then emergence will be erased.
Now, talking about this emergence, at a time where Cameroon is dead sure, at a time where Cameroon is very, very much certain, at the time where the government is doing everything that it should to make sure that Cameroon is arriving or attaining emergence in 2020, in 2033, is that it?
2035.
In 2035, do you think proper waste management should be a topic in 2023, 2024?
Sure, it should be. I think it's even timely. Timely because, like I told you from the beginning, emergence cannot take place when our mind does not react or align to emergence. First of all, I don't only blame the government. I blame the local community, because first of all, the government can provide a trash can for dirt or sewage to be disposed of. But you see a citizen of the, in fact, within the community will escape the inhabitants will escape the trash can and intentionally pour dirt on the floor.
Don't you think that is when the trash cans are flooded or they are
Not when they are
overspilling?
flooded, because I've seen a situation where the trash can is empty, but the moment a citizen gets closer to the trash can, they just throw, and it does not get into it. To the point that the second worker can be by the trash can trying to pick up garbage. You see a looker will just come around and just throw the dirt out of the trash can. And the second worker will want to educate the citizens. Please, you are not supposed to throw it there. So it has to do with educating ourselves, because I've realized that it's not just a problem from the government. The government can do everything possible to bring all the necessary measures in place to ensure that citizens have a good sewage disposal system. But if we are not also trained, it's just like they take you now and put you in the United States. You are used to peeling banana and flinging it off. You do the same thing. So it has to be a renewal of the mind.
And that is criminal.
Yes, it's criminal. There are some countries, for example, I've been to Uganda. If you throw dirt on the streets, according to their by law, you can go to court and be taken to prison for about 6 months.
Just because of improper garbage disposal.
Yes, and I believe that other countries are adopting such. But here we have that laissez-faire. Even you urinate anywhere, and they'll have to write 25,000 if you do that. If they can get to that extent of paying 25,000, it means that we ourselves in the locals, we are comfortable with the way our brothers behave. If my brother cannot dispose of dirt well, I cannot live in peace with the person.
Okay, let's, Teddy, do you think that this idea or this aspect of improper waste disposal, you can see on the screen just like what the technicians there is doing. Have you seen, before we get into who is supposed to do what with you, have you noticed improper waste disposal around the Buea municipality, and can you cite some of these cases?
Well, I think this is not a question, because everybody who is working, who lives in this Buea, sees the garbage, the rubbish everywhere. I mean, there is no garbage-free environment in Buea. I mean, even at the administrative centers, like you go to the SDO's office, to the DO's office, you go around the court there, not to talk about the key places like in Moliko, to talk about checkpoint. There was a time that the garbage were dumped until it was more than the height of a camion around Lycée, coming towards the stadium. Not to talk about Dongo, not to talk about Deti South,
Not talk
around
about even
Nose,
here at
where the
Malingo.
garbage, not to talk about Malingo, where we even have a very tiny road, and that road, for us to even manage a one-way track for the vehicles to manage with the traffic, they still carry the garbage and dump it at the roadside. Well, your question is, have I noticed? So I'm just affirming that I've noticed. But now, to break it down to who is causing what, I want to say
And
that
who should do what?
and who should do what. I want to say that it is a two-sided coin.
Let's begin with
When it
government
comes to responsibility, when it
and
comes
local
to
authorities.
when it comes to responsibility, I will not go to local authorities. I'll go to government and the citizens.
Okay.
Now, the local authorities
By
will
government-
fall under the government.
But I think we should be more specific, because the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development is still government. The mayor is still government.
Yeah.
The councillors of the Buea Council, whether senior or junior councillors, parliamentarians are government. But who is in charge of what? When we are talking about looking at who is in charge of what, we are looking at council authorities. Now, I think we should be more specific. I mean, for clarity, remember we are educating those who are watching. So, who should be in charge of this? If they are the local authorities, what should they do?
Okay, Madam Mabel, before the minister came up with this idea of putting garbage disposal at the top of his agenda, I think he's already aware of an existing problem. Now, the solution of the problem starts by identifying the problem itself. For him to come up clearly and say that we are bringing in new strategies to manage waste, it means he has first of all accepted that there is a problem. Now, we thank him for that. It is very important to know that Article 42 of the 1996 law states that waste shall be treated in an ecologically rational manner to eliminate or curb the harmful effect on human health. Now, who is in charge of managing this waste? It is a minister who have come out now to talk about the waste management and all not. But here we know that our local authorities have the greater role to play. I want to say that they are undermining the role of waste management in our society because they are not doing efficient work to see that there is a proper management of waste. How can sometimes you can move from Moliko right up to OIC without seeing an empty container at the roadside where you can drop a piece of paper or you can drop a raccoon that you have eaten biscuit in. At least to buy these containers and put at the roadside, I don't think it's going to cause them a human head or anything.
But just like what Mr. Joel Ekogwe was saying, these denizens do not actually.
That is why I am saying that the responsibility is on a two-side coin, on the side of the government and on the side of the citizens. The other day I was walking down to Malingo Junction. I saw one guy who has a shop beside the road, and there was a small signboard that no dumping of dead hair, fine 25,000. The guy who has a small shop at the roadside was sucking oranges. Immediately asked my friend, because we also had I think we had something like chips. We were eating chips, and my friend said, where is he going to dump the raccoon? I just told him to keep it in his pocket. Wherever we see a trash, we'll dump it there. So he showed me the trash, and then immediately he saw the sign that no dumping of refuse. The person who has that shop was sucking oranges there. Immediately he finished, he dropped it there. And I'm suspecting that he's a person who put that thing.
No, is this going to say you're not leading by example?
Very, very exactly. And that is what our government is doing. You cannot employ people to have good manners and you don't show good manners. The government should be frank enough. The government should be realistic. When they make promises, they should make sure that they execute them. When we say there is a problem of waste disposal, what are we doing to manage this waste disposal? Some people go further to blame Ezekam and all the like. How much do they pay these people? They don't even give them this sanitation equipment. Most of the times when you see them working, they are working with their bare hands. They are also exposed to diseases. They don't treat these people well. Ezekam does not have the sufficient vehicles. All these things,
but it's a contract.
It is a contract. The government has a right to check the contract to see that the execution of the contract is going according to plan. When there is a contract, there are two sides to formalize a contract.
Corruption will not allow them to check.
There are two ways to formalize a contract: the execution in proper and consideration. For you to give consideration to an employee or a party to a contract, you should make sure that the person is responding and respecting the terms of the contract. Or does it mean that the government and the Ezekam are just signing blind contracts? They are just signing empty pieces of paper that at the end of the year will give 20 million. You call your cousin who has idea about camions, he tells you this is how much you can buy camions, and then you open a company and call it Ezekam and you start working. The government has the right to check that this Ezekam stands for what it is. That if this is Ezekam, what is their record when it comes to garbage management? They have to check all these.
Mr. Stefan, should at this particular point in time, do you think that accusing fingers should be pointed towards Ezekam, or do you think that it's going to suffice for us to sit here on this platform and to categorically state that Ezekam is doing the work that they are supposed to do? I remember you cited about 10 minutes ago that you have spotted them doing the work that they have been assigned to do. They are discharging their service to community. So if at a certain point this work feels inefficient, do you think it's because government is not keeping up a particular part of their bargain, or something is missing? What is the thing that is missing in the whole equation?
Well, in political science, we usually say that there's what is and what ought to be. What my brother is saying is like bringing theories in a society. A society doesn't work like that. In society, we say what we see, and we are not supposed to be saying that this is. Now, coming back to the reason why I made mention of Isakam. Now he made a point which is, of course, is applaudable to like he was talking about the fact that government has contract with Isakam and they don't actually get into to ensure that there is no breach of contract or they respect the terms and conditions. Now, like I said, Cameroon as a whole needs formatting. We are too corrupt. When the person we are in a laissez-faire country. That's why the boss of Isakam, he does everything. Like, look at Isakam. We are talking about a contract. Isakam is a private institute. Let's take of parastatals. You look like a parastatal like CDC. You see what the general manager will earn, and you see what the laborer will earn. You just see that this country doesn't make sense. So if you are looking, like I'm talking about a parastatal, but Isakam is a private business and they are coming, but still yet they cannot still go there. Why? Because somebody is sitting somewhere in a ministry and the Isakam boss is his friend, and he comes and say, gars, on fait comment avec le truc là? Tu vas renouveler le truc. Yeah, say yes, yeah, they just sign and they enjoy this. They don't care about us. And that's why, for us, the citizens, we need to shine our eyes.
They don't care about us, but yet Isakam still penetrates quarters. Isakam still goes.
Isakam is a total failure.
We get their honking.
Isakam is a total failure. 2 days ago, I was in Douala. Do you know that our vehicle was behind one Isakam truck, and the vehicle transported death from Bonaberi going right to Ndokoti. How can you leave Bonaberi almost close to Bikoko? You carry trash there to enter the town, to enter Ndokoti, as if that was not even the case. Look at it this way. The guy who the truck did not even have a cover. Like when they were going, the deaths were just flying over, and you see all the tar. The tar was dirty. So you see that it's lack of how can I put it?
Should we blame it on lack of follow up?
That's good, and the lack of follow up is because of corruption.
Now,
because if there is accountability. If there is accountability, you guys will know that this person is not doing his work, and the person will be sanctioned. But because the person knows that he's in a laissez-faire country, that whether he does it or he doesn't, because he's the friend of this or the brother of this, nothing is going to happen.
So it suffices to say that government is making attempts, but there is a lack of follow-up. Is that what you're saying?
Government is not making attempt. Who is supposed to do the follow-up? Is the government.
Actually, let me interrupt you, please. For the past 5 years that I've been following up on TV, when we have commentaries and we are analyzing things and talking about the government, I've discovered that we've been talking, criticizing the government, criticizing this one, saying this one was not supposed to be so, and for the past 5 years plus, things have not changed. I will tell you that if you go to Europe, a normal citizen within Europe knows that if he or she has to live a long life, you must contribute to the growth of your society. Don't just blame the government. If you die today because of garbage, everybody forgets about you. Let me give you an example. Take the very Ndongo you quoted. I've lived in Ndongo for about 5 years. I know of Ashukem Street.
Where is that?
Just
Good.
by after
Madam
salvation.
Lebel, just to add to what
let
you
me,
are.
let me not go out
Okay.
of yes. Just look at Ashukem Street. Ashukem has been taking care of that street for the past 10 years.
Who is Ashukem? Is it the name?
Yes.
No, he's a man. I know the man. He lives just beside Ndongo Primary School.
Yes, he is a denizen of Ndongo quarters. Yes,
But taking the sole responsibility.
to sole responsibility to the point that even what he had been praying for the third road to get to his street, and I think 50% of that has been achieved so far.
Now, so in summary,
Because
you
of-
are saying that government should be.
No, I'm saying that we should stop blaming the government and take responsibility for our community. We should take responsibility for our community. We shall blame the government for how long? How can you blame a government that
If you are saying that we should not blame the government, it means
No.
that we are acknowledging that we don't even have a
we are not saying
government.
that. Look at
Because
it.
normally,
do what
when you live from UB Junction to
Do
Checkpoint,
what
how
you
many
can.
trash cans do you need
do what
beside
you
the
can
road?
to change society.
I'm
that we
asking
live
you
in.
that
That's
when
what
you
I'm saying.
leave UB Junction to Checkpoint, how many trash cans do you see beside the
There are
road?
trash cans.
Said
Which
just-
trash can?
There are
Have you
trash
seen
cans
a
too.
trash can?
Yeah, their trash cans,
Where?
they are not sufficient.
Now
They are not
let me look at
sufficient.
it as
If
somebody
we
like
keep
you
blaming the
says you are
government, we
political.
cannot do a blame game. We cannot play a blame game.
No, I've been blaming
When
the
it
government for a long
comes
time.
to when it comes to something that has to deal with all of us, something that has to affect all of us, we cannot play a blame game and fold our hand.
No, I'm-
We are not.
I'm-
If we are
I'm-
blaming
I'm-
the government,
I'm-
if
The
it's
government
not
has a
our
responsibility.
country,
We have a
then what are we
responsibility.
doing?
But
The
you cannot
government
tell us that we should
needs to
stop
take
blaming
responsibility.
the
I'm talking
the
about the fact that I've been
government.
following Mr. Stefan for a while now. He has said nothing positive about the government.
I
So
say
if
I say
there's-
positive.
no, see,
When
as a-
something is
as a
good,
future politician-
when something is good, I say it's
Look,
good.
as a
When
politician-
something, you want me to
No,
come and call
you have-
something
you
that
have-
is black,
you have-
that is
look at-
white.
look
Because
at-
if the government is not doing anything,
are
so why come and
moments,
say that the government
There
is
are
doing
moments the
something?
government has done
Thank you
things
so
that
much.
you yourself should acknowledge that the government.
I
has done.
acknowledge
Because
and I upload
look
it.
at you can be being in governance is the true test of the fact that what you attest for today you put into practice tomorrow.
Okay, I think that is some sort of emotional blackmail or trying to guilt trip somebody, which is not allowed on the panel. I think regardless,
No, he's free. He's free to. He's free to air his mind. We're on a political debate.
I'm trying to say
which
that,
is not very
look
okay
at-
on the panel.
if I want to be-
I'm moderating, trying to guilt trip. People have their stance whether or not he said nothing good about government. But then again, I think Mr. Joel has said something, including Mr. Teddy here, which you have left unanswered since you are on the other side of the pitch. They are asking, if you walk from here to UB Junction, how many trash cans do you meet? And Mr. Joel is saying that even with the few, we can make do with the few, but you are saying they are not enough. So does it mean we should not make do or be responsible because they are not enough?
Neither. I've not refused that as citizens, we have the duty to ensure that our environment is clean. That's what I'm saying it this way. It is the responsibility of citizens to actually ensure that they do their own part. They try their own best, right? But I'm making you to understand that there should be a regulation because we are in a state of law. And for when we are in a state of law, when you are saying that if the government is not doing it, if the government is, you are telling us that our destinies are now in our hands. So therefore, we are supposed to take care of everything. Let me put it this way, my brother. In the University of Buea, when I say something is good, I appreciate that something is good. In the University of Buea, for instance, there are trash cans everywhere, which of course I applaud it. I acknowledge that's a good initiative from the administration there. But do you know that when students put things in those trash cans, where do the university throw the dirt? If you go in opposite the faculty of education, you realize that they have created one garbage place there.
Okay, I think I like what the broadcaster is showing. Thank you so much, thankful Claudine, for giving us all those images. It just makes the program very nicer. There was this big trash can that she had shown. Well, at this one, do you people think that this does not suffice, or this is not enough for a community? I mean, this big capacity trash
Madam
can
Mabel, to me it is not enough
for a community.
for a community, depending on the community. Now, our focus here, most of us are talking about Ndongo because of how notorious Ndongo is when it comes to waste disposal and debris everywhere. If you look at the population of people staying in the quarter and the number of trash cans that they put in these areas, you will see that they are not sufficient. We don't want to say these trash cans are not existing. They are existing, but they are not sufficient. Our brother here said from UB Junction to Checkpoint, you will not see trash cans. There are trash cans on the way, but they are not sufficient. It is with that sense that we are saying that we are calling on Cameroonians to be responsible. We are calling on Cameroonians to be intentional. If the government is failing, we are not going to remain there to cry every day that the government is failing. The government is failing.
Okay,
we
now,
have to take
since you have the
responsibility in our
microphone,
hands.
and we all, the usual song has been take responsibility, take responsibility. I'll categorically put it to you as a question: if you were government, what would you have done differently?
If I was the government and I am put in an office that has to do with debris management, waste management, I will make sure that I will execute within the range of my power and the rules of my office. I will make sure that I follow the rules of my office. Why on earth will you be a waste management officer, and instead of you picking garbage, you are instead adding the garbage? Now, adding the garbage is not only in the sense of carrying dirt to go and throw on the way. Allowing people to litter these dirt on the street has more than the effect that we see with our eyes. People throw wrappings in the gutters. When the wrappings and papers block the gutters, rain falls. Instead, there are no waterways. Now the rain enters in the road and it starts kicking off cars and disturbing people.
You have to reach the position where you are put into power or given responsibility.
I'm answering the question that if I was the government, what will I do? I'm talking now on the side of the government. Waste management is a rule in Cameroon, and we are in a state of law. Now, the law article 42 article 42 of the 1996 law that says that we have to manage the waste rationally in an ecological system.
Now,
it means that any person who goes against the ecological system is breaking the law. As the government, they need to do a follow-up committee to see that people who are perpetuating the laws are being punished.
Now, if we are in a state of law, Mr. Joel Ekogwe, do you think the law is feasible and followed to the latter? Well, especially cognizant of some concerns?
Well, my fear is that if the law has to take its course, then most of our how can I put it? Those at law may take advantage of that to commit excesses. That's my fear. Because if everything now goes into law and is executed, if you throw litter, you will be prosecuted. You discover that
those are the
judiciary now will start looking for criminals.
Okay.
The aim is not to educate us that we are not supposed to do that, but now they will be looking now for opportunities to get criminals to take to hold responsible.
Okay, now.
So yes, it's a good thing for the government to.
So are you saying that they will accuse people for what they have not done?
Not that they will accuse people. The essence behind is to educate.
What kind of education? What kind of education do you think society needs at this point where we are in dire need for garbage evacuation in our communities? At this point, what kind of education, mass sensitization do you think we need for the evacuation of garbage in communities?
The kind of education we need some sort of workshops or seminars where the local community is brought to understand that the importance of keeping our society clean. So workshops or seminars can be organized, and also follow-ups, for example, on garbage disposal. There should be permanent sites where you have waste disposal offices. It must not just be at the SACAM headquarters up at class quarters, that they only rush down to the field when they learn that there is garbage somewhere to carry. But at least you should have some people, workers around who always sensitize the population, even by the trash cans, so that when people are dumping, at least during the day, there are countries where a worker of that nature has a permanent position where he or she is placed on a daily basis. I think for a period of 7 hours or 8 hours, normal working day, that you are walking around that area. People are conscious of the fact that you are walking around that area. They will not dump waste carelessly. So I believe that there is need for sensitization in the local population. There is also need, like you see us talking about it on TV. I believe there are people watching. That's another way of sensitizing the population. And also, we should take responsibility. We should be educated to take responsibility that it is, if ISACAM does not do its job properly, we should help ISACAM to do its job properly. That's what I believe.
Madam Mabel, just to add to what our brother have said, I want to say that when it comes to garbage disposal, it does not only mean to throw dirt. Garbage disposal will go down to the processes and formalities taken to dispose of the dirt. Now, the final destination of this debris matters a lot. When ISACAM collects all this trash, where do they keep them? This is a question that I want to ask. Where do they keep them? When you go along Munya, from Munya going towards Ikona, there is a place on the right, a very vast land where they go and deposit this dirt and then they burn it. Have you ever traveled by car along that area? Some people can even choke in the car because of the bad smell that is coming from the place. Not only the smell from the garbage, but the smell from the smoke that emanates from
a fatal
from the
accident even
now,
occurred and everybody died.
Yes. When it comes to waste disposal, there are various ways that we can dispose of waste. We can reuse, we can recycle.
So are you totally against the idea of
I am not totally against the idea. I am saying that we should improvise on different ways of disposing dirt. We must not only carry the dirt and throw. Plastic containers, I've seen videos where people build houses using plastic containers. And just a quick reminder, these people are not the government. These are private individuals that have seen that waste management is a concern in the society, and this is their own way to see how they can support the system by collecting these containers and putting them into use,
now,
which is a good step.
Mr. Stefan Nembu, during one of the quarterly crisis meetings you held in Yaoundé in 2023, the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, at the Star Building, stated that there should be a proper disposal of waste management, and he decried the condition, and especially the national capital, Yaoundé, being at the crossroad of this improper, disgusting, and obnoxious garbage disposal. Do you think it's a shame that when we talk about waste disposal, Yaoundé being the central organ of the national triangle is a case in point?
Maybe I would say that first of all, the citizens are a big problem. Us, the citizens, we are a big problem to the country, because we have, I cannot talk about the citizens. When I want to talk about citizens of Cameroon, I always want to ensure that it's because of their environment. Because they usually say that the way you reason, the way you do things, the things are shaped by your environment. You understand? The way you grew up, the way you are, you might try as much as you can to actually, try to be different. You understand? By the end of the day, you come back. Citizens are actually, how can I put it? They don't care. Like they are in a state of je m'en fous. That's why they can just throw garbages everywhere, dirt everywhere. And you see, when you go, like you look at a town, a city like Yaoundé, you realize that citizens, they just throw those deaths everywhere. But now I begin to ask myself, when I was talking about trash can, I'm not talking about that thing that I don't know if I can call it, because that is that can comes and put there. That's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about those normal big containers that have covers. You understand? That you can put it along at least every after 100 meters. You put it every after 100 meters. You ensure that at the end of every day, you clear those containers. By so doing, you are reducing. We are not saying, I understand that the citizens are in the state of shame and food, they are doing anyhow. But now, let's say for instance, I've eaten a biscuit and the paper is in my hand, and now maybe I don't have it back, and yes, I can put it in my pocket. What if I don't even have a pocket? I might just throw around maybe 50 meter or 100 meter from me, and I see yeah, like what is in the University of Reference. You just open it and throw it inside, and in the evening the thing is clear. You realize that you are doing a lot of things. But now, if you don't do it that way, you expect that somebody might have that way. I'm saying this. Somebody might eat how can I put it, in roasted maize, and really want to throw that thing in the trash can, and maybe the person is not checking. The person wants to enter the taxi. The person does not even have.
So if you were in Uganda, what would you have done in that case?
In Uganda, you cannot tell me that in Uganda, the person who gave information about Uganda, because I don't like talking about things that I don't know. If it's in Uganda actually, and maybe in Uganda, you cannot tell me that they will tell people not to throw dirt, and there is no measure that they have put in place that okay, maybe after 100 meter, maybe after 200 meter, you have because you cannot be telling somebody
okay,
that.
So if you are in the position, your example is clear.
Yes.
If you are at that position and you have to walk 100 meters, you are going to hold the constant, whatever it is.
No, 100 meter is not far, so I will hold it. I walk for the 100 meter, put it, then I take the taxi. I go where I want to go.
Let me bring down the example. Let me get up to Mountain Hotel. If you walk into Mountain Hotel now, what would cause you not to throw dirt or litter the floor?
Even when visibly they are not trash.
Even when they are not trash cans, because the place is clean. Are you understanding? Because the place is clean, and because the place is clean, you are conscious of the fact that what I should not litter the floor.
Or maybe you are being monitored.
Or you are being monitored. Why can't you take that into society? Get to the University of Buea, you just quoted. It means there is good governance at that level.
Talking about good governance,
there's good governance even at the
solution at the University of Buea. The purpose of the campus police is not to check on who is throwing dirt on the floor. It is always clean because we have constant cleaners. So because people still litter these days, what I want to say is that in every society we have good citizens and bad citizens. Even it is in the Uganda that we are quoting here as an example. We have people who still see the trash can and still dump the dirt.
But why is it that the good side is being very, very much notorious? Maybe because even the bad citizens are aligning to what
it is because the authorities. It is because the authorities are not executing their job perfectly.
So you mean that even in Cameroon, if that particular sense
failure
is
of system, it is a failure of the system.
Let's look at the failure of a system. Minister Celestine Kechakutas, the Housing and Urban Development Boss, is always in an annual retreat and giveaway to towns, municipalities, and all of that. Do you think this is a leap of faith to most municipalities? And Buea being as beautiful, Buea has one of the most beautiful sights to behold in Cameroon. Limbetu is following, but Buea, would you hear that Buea is in the list of getting the millions that Minister Celestine Kechakutas is giving? Do you think it's a leap of faith to most of these towns to be at the epicenter of whatsoever thing is happening, or a booster?
I think first of all, I will applaud the city of Limbe
for always being
waste management, at least to an extent.
And Kribi too, I think.
Now, if you walk down to Limbe, personally, I will not throw or litter environment in any manner. I'm conscious of the fact that Limbe is clean. Clean in the sense that both the council and the citizens understand that they have to keep their town clean. So all of them are taking responsibility. That's why they can win awards. I think it's the second time Limbe wins an award for cleanliness. Now, at the level of Boya, we are still trying to feel like Isakam is responsible for coming to clean our city. The council needs to take responsibility for our city.
What should they do?
Now, there was a moment I saw, I think I was moving around Pokwango some time back when the council was trying to sensitize the population about bringing in a tax that they can use to support Isakam. In other words, they were to move from land from house owners, from one house owner to the other, to
for free will donation.
Not free will donation, but the tax of I think 150 francs on a monthly basis that can be used to support or manage waste disposal, which was, I don't know how the extent to which it went, which was a good step. But on the other hand, I don't think that should be the point of order, because first of all, the citizens are already complaining of hikes in prices of goods and services. If you bring in a tax now of that nature, they are going to retaliate. But I think there could be better measures that the state can, the council can use, so that we work hand in gloves to ensure that our city is clean. And at least, why not be like Limbe? Why not be like Kribi? So you cannot say that it's still a very governance. It's still the very Cameroon, the system that we say that some say it has failed. That is still taking care of Kribi, taking care of Limbe. So why can that system not work in Boya also?
Okay, I think that is $1 million question that you'll be asking Mr. Stefan this evening. But before he actually gathers or rallies and puts together the momentum he needs to give the response to that question, let's take on a few contributions. This one says, hello, greetings to you, Madam Moderator, and all members of your panel. I wish to submit that it's a shame a country like Cameroon, for this era, our country is still battling with minor issues like waste management, water supply, electricity, and more. These are things which are rights of the citizen to enjoy and the responsibility of the state to provide. I'm embarrassed to be blaming this hygiene company, the state and its institution and personnel don't have the good and persons who do not have the goodwill for the country but are highly good in hijacking state funds to their private numerous accounts. Dedone Ekane from Tole. Thank you, my good friend Dedone Ekane, and hope that Tole is doing very well. Ground Zero, we are thinking about you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for following the program. Just to mention that it feels good to know that you're somewhere watching Matters this evening. And today on the panel, I have 3 gentlemen who are actually making the set very bubbly and very interesting alongside. And the program on board is looking at the decentralization goals. Minister George Elanga Obam, who actually, in his New Year wish, actually told his collaborators who came to salute him for the new year that waste disposal is going to be top of his agenda. What do you think? In your community, do you actually face the crisis of waste management and waste disposal? And how do you think that we can actually put local authorities, charge them, put them on their toes to actually step in and settle these crises that our municipality is facing and our local community is facing? Heading to you, Mr. Stefan, a lot has been said about who is supposed to be taking the blame and who not is supposed to be taking the blame. Let us cue in with where the contributor or the viewer who actually sent his contribution ended. He's actually crying out loud that at this era, Cameroon should not be even looking at something very petty as waste disposal, where we have gigantic issues to face, but yet we are here. What do you have to say about that?
The Ministry of Decentralization is not even supposed to exist at the first place. just the idea of creating a ministry of decentralization is a way of just wasting national fund. When the Ministry of Territorial Administration and Decentralization was there, they could still they were doing their job, and ISACAM was still existing. Now, what Mr. Elanga Obam should be focusing on is to ensure that the decentralization that we are talking about, we want to see councils getting in and paying grade 1 teachers and teachers at the level of their community, maybe what they call, maybe when we talk at the local level, we're talking about the regional assembly, the council and the city council. If we are talking of decentralization, we should be looking at those things, that those decentralized entities ought to take over the recruitment of teachers, and people should not be going to Yaoundé. A teacher in Boya should not go to Yaoundé to follow one document or another for the classification and all those things. Those are things that when we talk of decentralization, they should be focusing on, not garbage, because I don't even understand. So a mayor needs the instruction from a minister to understand that his community is supposed to be clean. So they created, these ministers, when somebody is irrelevant, that's why he's always going to be bringing irrelevant things, because his ministry is first of all irrelevant. I always tell people that the problem in a politics, when we are talking of a system of government, Cameroon, we don't even know what we want in this country. We don't know if we want a decentralization, a deconcentration. We are just mixing things, and we don't really know.
So are you saying that decentralization is not decentralized?
Exactly. People don't even know what they are even supposed to do.
Brother,
now,
the government says it is a process, and then they're trying to speed up. So why not trust the process? It is just about a year ago when this ministry was created, and within a year you're already criticizing to this extent.
Maybe.
Why not look at, if you have aspirations, sometimes you should give benefit of doubt and give a handshake to your opponent who is at least advancing somewhere. Someday he may bring you on board, so that from there you can affect the change you want.
Maybe on this same panel, I was sitting with someone the other day who was talking about the spacer status. We were discussing, like the other day you were here, he was talking about the spacer status, and he made mention of the regional assembly, and I asked him a question. Can you give us account of what the Southwest Regional Assembly has done for this 2023?
So how does this question tally?
Now I want to answer my brother. When we are talking of a process, right? It means that if you are being given at least a year, give account for the year. You come every year, you follow what your political mentor is doing. You keep on bringing ideas and bringing.
The minister talked about proper waste disposal just a few days ago, and you're already, at least give him a year.
You are not understanding what you are not getting. You are not getting my point. This is my point. This is my point clearly. The idea of even giving instruction is not even supposed to be there, because we don't need, the councils don't need the minister to give them instructions for them to understand that their citizens need to be clean, their community needs to be clean. That's the first point.
When it comes to decentralization, like my brother said, that according to him, that Ministry of Decentralization should not exist. I agree with him. For the Minister of Decentralization to come up and start talking about waste management, it shows that he does not even have.
It's irrelevant.
He does not have something to do. He's just chasing clouds.
The Ministry of Decentralization,
just trying to call on the
that's just one
attention
aspect.
of people.
That's just one aspect of their focus.
Decentralization, no.
Is that what he's supposed to be doing?
Is a
Is that what he's supposed to be doing?
That's a problem.
Is that what the
Okay,
Minister of Decentralization is supposed to be doing? Is that what the Minister of
Permit me ask you,
Problem
don't
you
you
and I have
think?
identified.
Okay,
And
permit
if
me
the
ask.
government has gone to that extent of even identifying that problem that you and I are facing, give it credit. If a government did not identify the problem, you criticize the
But
government.
Mr. Teddy, just the moment, Mr. Joel, just like what Mr. Joel is saying, don't you think it's just a tiny part of the big animal that he has, or just a small part of the elephant that he has to address in the room?
Madam Mabel, it is a good gesture for him to recognize an existing problem and address it.
Now, going back to what you said, Mr. Teddy, going back to what you said, that him coming to say and address something as trivial as waste disposal management means he's chasing clout.
It is the same thing as the Minister of Finance would still come up and talk about it. We know that when it comes
does that fall within his jurisdiction?
We don't even know the jurisdiction of the ministry of the God Minister of
community man like me.
When it comes to jurisdiction, when it comes to jurisdiction in Cameroon, anything that supports the government policy is in the right jurisdiction.
Look at my
of
brother.
the policy.
Look at
that is what
as
I
a
think.
community man where
Decentralization is a political policy which has a way of implementing. He's just coming up to show that he is relevant, and this decentralization policy
parliament. It could still come from the
this is a policy that only exists in a totalitarian regime.
He has important things.
Mr. Stefan, just to ask you, in whose hands is the problem of waste disposal supposed to be playing more? In whose hands?
Who takes care of the environment of Cameroon?
In which ministry?
Normally, our environment, we should have a ministry
that takes care of the environment.
If the head of state comes now in his speech and talks about football, is there no minister of sports?
That is the head of state say he's the first class citizen
if the minister of decentralization comes to
the head of state has a nationwide jurisdiction to talk about any
we are not refusing that
decentralization is a policy that emanates from
it's not relevant.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joel. Thank you, Mr. Stefan. I think I asked you a question a while back and you were startled, you could not respond. Maybe I give Mr. Teddy the place or the pride of place to be able to respond. In whose hands, in whose jurisdiction is the idea of proper waste disposal supposed to be talked on or talked about the most?
Well, I don't know if we have a ministry that takes care of our environment.
We have a ministry of environment.
We should have, then that should be the right person. The minister of that ministry should be the right person to talk about.
I believe the minister is not talking about who is responsible. The minister of decentralization is trying to bring down.
How can you address a matter which is not in your jurisdiction?
No, listen.
It is not in your jurisdiction.
I believe he is focusing
decentralization is a policy. Let him implement the policy that.
Look at
decentralization is a policy that works from regional to local authorities.
You rightly said
his place is to talk about.
You rightly said Isakam should that the process of decentralization, the state is handling everything from Yaoundé. Now, the aspect of decentralization is not about the environment. Don't get it wrong. If the minister of decentralization is talking about,
then why is he putting it at the top of his priorities?
When he's talking about the environment now, he is simply saying that what if everything was taking place in Yaoundé, they decide in Yaoundé, let it come now to the level of the local councils, let them take decisions like that.
It has been there. It has been there. It has been there for ages. Before,
look at
it has always been the council that
with garbage. I think we are missing.
So don't bring up the aspect of governance now.
Mr. Joel, you are saying something. Mr. Joel, you are saying something pertinent. But please, I wish Mabel should give us a clarity. When he's talking about the environment that he made mention of, is he talking about environment per se as a community, or we are talking about garbages as we are seeing?
He is talking about garbages.
So why is Mr. Joel mixing up? Because if he's talking about garbages, then therefore he has no place.
Don't just single out that in his speech.
When you fail to manage the garbage.
Excuse me, Mr. Teddy, the Minister of Local Administration and Decentralization, George Elanga Obam, said top of his agenda is going to be proper disposal of waste management, and that he is going to charge staff and local authorities to take charge of that. So don't you think that falls within his ambit, Mr. Stefan?
What I'm saying, Mabel, is that
it's a question. Answer from the moderator.
It has no place.
Okay.
On the contrary, it has
let him land.
It has no place. To me, I think that I insist on there are relevant things that the Ministry of Decentralization ought to do. So us sitting here encouraging is just we don't know what we are doing. He's not even supposed to think of that. He should be thinking of serious things to give relevance to his ministry.
Okay, like what, please?
That's why I said that. For instance, teachers, primary school teachers, primary
That's
school
the Ministry
teachers.
of Secondary Education.
No, please,
That's
let
secondary
me
education.
learn. When we are talking of decentralization
Yes.
in proper, primary school teachers are supposed to be handled by the councils and the regional assembly.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yes,
Question.
yes.
If the minister says he wants to put top of his agenda
Yes,
the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education
yes.
as top of his agenda, as far as decentralization is concerned, has he gone out of his way to affect to include into the Ministry of Secondary Education when we have a minister?
I wish you explain something. When I say the ministry, when I say councils and regional assemblies ought to take charge of teachers at the regional level or at the local level, this is what I mean. It's not as if we are saying that teachers are no longer part of the Ministry of Secondary Education. It's not the Ministry of Secondary Education that pays teachers.
Good.
Mr.
the
Joel,
ministries
let me
are
ask more to your
interconnected.
question,
So the
please.
ministries are interconnected.
Let me ask
Exactly.
more. Let me ask
So
more to your
if he
question.
says that top of my agenda is that what I want to empower the councils, it means
That-
that what
that
he will
idea should
collaborate
not-
with the Ministry of
That
Finance
should not even
to
be
empower
part.
them.
That should not
Then he
even
will
be
collaborate
top of
with
his
them.
agenda.
You
That
say-
should not
no.
even be part of
Why
top
should
of
not?
his
But then-
agenda.
He has
But
talked
then
about
yes.
okay, look at this ministry came with the crisis. I believe that on part of the agenda of the Ministry of Decentralization.
We are talking
was
on
to equip
we are
local
talking on what
councils.
is on the table.
No, but
Let us talk on
look
what
at-
is on the table.
Mr. Stefan, don't you think in a way, Mr. Teddy, I think you step in here. Don't you think in a way, Mr. Stefania is agreeing that these ministries are interconnected? Don't you think?
Normally, Madam Mabel, these ministries are interconnected.
So
The
why say-
one thing I want to make clear.
So
is
why
that,
say in that case that
Madam
he is
Mabel,
chasing cloud?
one thing I want to say is that going ultra virus to the powers of these leaders is a norm in Cameroon.
Okay.
It is very normal that we see most of these ministers going out of order, doing things that does not concern them, and there is never a day that any authority will call them to order. It is a norm that you will see any minister gets up and talk about anything about any other ministry, and nobody will question them because they all fall under a political system. All of them are under a political system, and it is a totalitarian regime. It starts from up to down. Once you support anything that supports the government idea, you are right. Nobody will ask you a question for that. But for citizens or people who can reason things rationally, you will see that these people are irrelevant because they don't do the things that they are supposed to do.
Let's talk about
As
quarter
decentralization, good, as a minister of decentralization, if he talks about quarter heads, he is in the right place.
You
If
say
he
that
talks
it's irrelevant.
about,
Mr. Stefan will say it's irrelevant.
no, it is not irrelevant because
No.
decentralization is about
How can you accuse me of
regionalization.
something that
It is,
I'm not saying? How
it
can
is
you say that
about,
I'm
it is
saying
about
that?
because you have said
It
power.
says
It
it
is
talks
about
of
sharing
quarter
power.
heads,
There are
it's
more
not-
Starting from
important
top
things like
to
you said.
under.
Okay, let's
What is
look at the
decentralization?
roles.
What is first of all decentralization?
Let
If you
us look at
understand
the roles.
decentralization, they will not ask me such questions.
Okay, let us look at the roles of quarterheads, Mr. Stefan. What do you have to say as far as garbage disposal is concerned? The roles of quarterheads. I don't think the minister should, even stoop so low talking about quarterheads when he has mentioned councils already and municipal authorities. I think he is charging them, putting them on a hot seat so that they bring it down to the quarters and the quarterheads bring it down to whosoever to their subjects. That is decentralization enough, true or false?
Quarter head is a very important title that we are supposed to even respect more than the president of the republic. For instance, if you start respecting your quarter head, it means that you are respecting the head of state, because at the local level, in fact at your quarter level, you are already a responsible citizen at that quarter level, so you don't even need to like, you are reducing the work of the council, the DO, and getting right to the. Now what we have realized today is that people who even become those quarter heads are not like people who are really patriotic. Like, he made mention of one man that I know. Everybody around Dongo, everybody knows him. that the man is a dedicated man, the man is a community leader, the man is a selfless leader who really gives everything back to the community. When you see such person and you ask yourself, why is this man not even a quarterhead? Because those are the type of people who are supposed to be quarterheads. It's not about how much you have, it's not about who you know, it's about what you can offer to your community, the love you have for your community.
So in essence, are you saying most of these quarterheads are not due of their positions?
You see, most of them are those people that you see they like how can I put the protocols, you know. Yeah, when you see somebody is a quarterhead, the person feels already that is already in a 2D, is already at the Unity Palace. You see people, they don't actually have that love for the nation. They just feel like
Don't
the title is the most important thing.
Maybe unfounded.
It's not as if it's unfounded. I've seen many cases. I had a worry with my landlord. I don't want to mention it, about 4 years ago, and I needed to go to the quarterhead. But I realized the way the man handled the situation, the way he was trying to manipulate things, and I decided to just go straight to the state council.
Madam Mabel, just to add to what my brother
so what
said, quarterheads comes most of times at the level of familiarity. How familiar are you with the authorities who crown these people as quarterheads?
Which authorities are in charge of crowning people as quarterheads?
Oh, I want to say that
the chief, normally the chief is supposed to crown
the chief of the local community is the person who is supposed to crown quarterheads. Now it comes according to your familiarity with the chief. You will tell the chief that this plot of land, I was the first person who occupied it, before sold to this person, before sold to this person.
Okay,
so I came here first, I'm supposed to be. They don't do it based on competence. It starts from the bottom right to the top. No, or should I say from the top to the bottom?
But look at my brother, they give credence to someone who has been there from the beginning. You cannot bring a stranger to come and...
No, it does not matter. Competency is what matters.
No, before we
if you have been here for 10 years and you have no impact, and I've been here for just 2 years, I've been tested and they have seen, I have the right
you
to
can
be
become a counselor, not
necessarily
No, but don't you think what he's saying
competence is not about longevity?
No, I'm simply saying
if it is about longevity, the oldest person in Cameroon should be the president in Cameroon. If it is about longevity,
even the longevity that he's talking about,
competency,
respect
it is right competency now. Like this Mr. Ashunkem we are talking about, he's somebody I know so well. He goes down from his white Mercedes with his suit, he picks papers and dump them. Yes, that is one aspect. He's good at that. But should we just make him the quarterhead? It is not sufficient to make him the quarterhead. He has been there for long. It is true. So there are a number of there are a number of things we should take into consideration before we give these people that office.
Okay, I think that we have a few other reactions. This one says, "Good evening to all panelists of this wonderful program of waste disposal in Cameroon as the promises of the minister. I just jumped into this program now and I found it interesting. My name is Wallace Ebainchong, a chemical engineer with a great plan for waste management in Cameroon. We can actually remove and transform waste to fertilizers used for agriculture if only the government is serious about these promises and also create thousands of jobs for the youth. What I want to ask is, what plan has the government put in place for a proper management of waste within our cities?" This is from Wallace Ebainchong. Thank you so much, Wallace. It feels good to know that you are watching. Please, where are you watching us from? Do you think who has the answer to this question? Who feels the need?
Please, can you get back to the question, please?
The question says, "My name is Wallace Ebainchong, a chemical engineer with a great plan for waste management in Cameroon. We can actually remove and transform waste to fertilizers used for agriculture if only the government is serious about these promises and also create thousands of jobs for the youth. What I want to ask is, what plan has the government put in place for a proper management of waste within our cities?"
Okay, let me answer his question. If he is serious, as he have said, the government should not only expect from the government, because the government will never be serious. Let him not expect from them. He should do what he can do to see how he can help the society, how he can help his community. I've said that there are people who transform these plastic materials into tiles. You can transform them and you sell the tiles, you earn income, you take care of your family, you help people. You can do that and you employ people. It is going to help other families. To employ people to work under you is helpful. To help to make these ties and build infrastructures, it is also helpful for the whole community. We should not only wait, let him not wait about the government, because the government is never serious.
Okay, this one says Betty Langong, all the way from UAE, United Arab Emirates. She says, Mabel, I think this program is useless because the government are up on their futile and empty promises. The government, the neck me. Do you think, thinking that the government has a particular status quo and it's really not going to help Cameroon at this particular point in time, because we think the government has a particular modus operandi, the way they operate, and at a certain point, we cannot see into their competence. Do you think that's the case with what this other writer is queuing in?
Well, I will say that first of all, there are people who are fed up with the government and they've expressed it openly. They are fed up with the government, and I will not take that stance. First of all, the young man who said he's a chemical engineer, and he's waiting for the government to be serious or not to be serious. Why not approach the government? We have the Ministry of Decentralization. Approach them. Get to the receptionist.
But how do you think an individual of this
individual get there and attempt and tell us the message?
Do you think that's feasible, Mr.
No, an individual can come up with a company or an organization and approach them if on individual basis they don't have the competence to go to the ministries.
Every year the government sponsors you.
Look at it, brother. I'm tired of just
the government has failed.
Okay, how do you think? Okay,
the government has failed, and the citizens are only complaining that the government has failed.
Look at a citizen. If citizens have been complaining for the past 10 years, you yourself ask yourself, you have been complaining for the past 10 years.
What has changed?
So in this case, you are saying, Mr. Joel, that this particular gentleman, Mr. Wallace, should approach government, and the question is, how so?
Okay, how so? Let me give you a clear path on that. Look at, there are stages in life that you ascend to, and you can exert not just the influence but the power. He has become a chemical engineer. I believe before he was a student, and as a student you cannot effect change at that level. He has gotten to the point where now he's a chemical engineer, a good one at that. It is a position where he can now approach the government. Maybe as a student he was not able to approach the government, but now he has become a chemical engineer, and if I'm sure with experience. So you must get to a level in society where you can influence change. But if you have not gotten to that level, don't criticize unnecessarily. Yes, we have been criticizing the government for a long time, and it is not a solution to the problems that we have. So sometimes approach the government by going to meet them, even at the receptionist. Let them tell you that let him tell you all that he went to the receptionist and he was not welcomed. That's another. He can now switch on to take things into his own hands to effect change in his community. But don't blame the government for a long time. It does not help. It does not solve the problems. That's my point.
Maybe.
Yes, please.
The viewer who is watching us right now should understand something. Every year the government sponsors youth projects. I have people who have benefited from that project at the level. So I would give you two ministries that can really be of help. You have the Ministry of Youth and Civic Education and the Ministry of Agriculture.
Now there's a difference between submitting a project and giving
that's
government an idea.
That's where I'm coming.
I think he's giving government an idea.
That's where I'm coming. The problem is that if he's giving government an idea, he's going to send us a message here and he's going to end, and we are not going to benefit from that his idea. Let him write his project, and I repeat, in this way we do what we call lobbying. Lobbying is very important. Let him know how to lobby, know how to to start. I don't know whether he is going to start from the regional delegation of youth and civic education for his because very soon in February, right? Very soon February is entering, and at every 10th of February, youths are being offered grants, like it can be millions.
But
So
if you have blamed, if you, Mr. Stefan and
Yes.
Mr. Teddy, have blamed some shenanigan within government administration and bribery, corruption, personal affiliation and nepotism, do you think that is this going to come
that's
in
where I want
hypocrisy?
to, and that's why I'm talking of lobby. We understand that there's corruption, we understand that there's administrative bottleneck, we understand all those things, but we are saying that as a youth who wants to grow, right, you should go to Rome and do what the Romans do. Just
Mr. Stephen, the same corruption you are criticizing, is that what you are trying to promote?
Listen. This is what I'm saying. I'm talking of lobby. To lobby, it does not mean that you are going to give somebody money.
So how do you lobby?
When I'm talking of lobbying, right? For instance, you go in a ministry or you enter a ministry, you what you have is actually makes sense. You understand? But you need to have that exposure. You need somebody to actually see what you're doing, and you don't have that exposure. What you need to do is that you need to go now to know how to persuade somebody to see that what you are actually saying makes sense. And you are not persuading. Listen, when I'm talking of persuasion, no, you are not giving somebody gifts. I'm talking of persuasion. I use the word to persuade. It's not a minister. It's not a minister.
You don't believe in the system.
Everybody is not bad. No, listen. Everybody is not bad in Cameroon. Everybody is not bad in Cameroon. Everybody is not bad in Cameroon. Just the fact we acknowledge the fact that there's corruption.
If you think they must lobby to succeed, it means it is the same thing like corruption.
They lobby everywhere.
How many people
lobby
believe that they can write a
everywhere?
pass?
Lobby is everywhere, even in the United States. They do lobby. They lobby everywhere.
Lobby is
Corruption
not
is not corruption.
Now, excuse me.
Lobby is not corruption.
Now, excuse me.
Yes.
Mr. Stefan, don't you think you're shooting yourself on the leg?
No, I'm not shooting myself.
Excuse me.
I use the right word. I use the right word. Lobby.
No.
To lobby is not to corrupt or to drive somebody.
No, you have effortlessly said here.
Yes.
You effortlessly said here on the panel, if I have all my senses
Yes.
intact, that it is people get into high positions because of bribery, corruption,
Exactly.
and the personal affiliation,
Exactly.
man no man, as it's fondly
Exactly.
put.
Exactly.
So how do you think in this porous society, as you formally called it
Yes.
about 30 minutes ago,
Yes.
so in this same porous economy, this Mr. Wallace should write a proposal and bring it to the government?
Let me explain myself, please. You know what I always say when I don't see what I don't know. I have a friend, Gauthier, he's a computer engineer. He had a program, he wrote his program, he went at the Ministry of Youth Affairs, of Youth and Civil Education, he deposited his project there. He was expecting that they should call him to come and defend. When they published a list of youth projects that were there, he saw his project but with another man's name, right? But I have seen another guy, a guy that I know. I'm telling you something that I master. I've seen a guy that I know who does not know somebody, who does not know anybody.
Maybe that was an error?
It's not an error.
Typing error?
It's not an error. It's not an error.
Because it did not lobby.
No, wait, did he find out what happened
Listen.
that
Listen.
he took his project and gave it to someone else?
It's not lobby.
You don't expect me. There are certain things like I said. I
Talking
know
about the
ethics.
error part, please,
Yeah.
pause. Talking about the error part, do you consider it an error when maybe some letters of my name is missing or completely changed? Which is an error. An error comes with typography, right?
Yes, errors come with typography and
So now,
for me,
from Mabel Camden to Joel Ekogwe, there is no sync. There is no
no, look at
synchronization.
it. There must not be a relationship between the two names. I can be doing a typing of a project, or maybe names alongside maybe the titles of projects, and mistakenly I put someone else's project against another name. It's a typing error. Maybe you could have gone to find out. If he had access to a position where he could even have a project, he could have gone to them and said, well, I gave a project on this topic, but I see another name attached to my project.
Exactly.
And secondly,
exactly what he did. Exactly what he did.
You can give a project proposal.
I think without drifting,
exactly what he did, and at the end of the day,
without drifting from the subject, without drifting from the subject, it turns out that a lot of people are watching the program this evening, and trust me, it's a beautiful part on the back, ladies and gentlemen. And just to remind you that matters come up four times a week, every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, as from 6 p.m. right up until 8 p.m. at the dot. And just to know that we are educating Cameroonians. Now, a young Cameroonian has asked a question about how government is managing this waste disposal and how they can turn it into chemical benefit. And how should Cameroonians even write this project and approach government? Do you think it's some sort of a daunting task?
Let me get to that. Yeah, it is a sort of a daunting task, and it sounds unrealistic.
It's a rocket science.
Yes. It is true that the government grant loans, but we don't even know the grant subsidies, the grant projects. We don't even know the criterions.
Let's begin with approaching government with an idea that you have. How do you go about it?
We have said here that our government is a failed government. If I approach them with my ideas, I don't think they are going to take it.
Why?
Because I'm not part of their system. For you to approach the government with a project, for the project to be acceptable, you should first of all execute a project and let it succeed.
So would you stand there with your full chest to say all those whose projects have been given grants or subsidized, they are actually a part of the system?
I will stand and say that I don't know the grounds.
So why would you make that kind of claim?
I don't know the grounds. That's what I'm saying, that I don't know the grounds.
And don't you think it brings people
from the experience? Have you ever written projects? Because I've written mine. I've written numerous projects. They have never been granted. I know people who have written projects. They have never been granted. I don't want to say that our projects were too super good that they should have been granted. But what I'm saying is that we cannot trust and rely on these government projects. What I'm saying is that Cameroonians should take it in their hands, take it personal. If you open a company, now there are 3 ways that we can actually deal with waste management. The first one, I said, we can reduce waste. To reduce waste, it means we can actually to create containers, all these sardine containers that after you eat you must throw them and never use them. We can rather create containers that they can throw them and they get decayed, or we can create containers that after eating the sardine you can use them and produce another sardine or produce another thing. I know that it is not easy, but it is possible.
You blame the government.
I am proposing 3 ways.
I am say the government has
it is not a strange thing. It is not a strange thing to tax people. We are paying indirect taxes, a lot of indirect taxes. That is why everything is expensive in the market, and so we should not be complaining about it. I want to propose 3 ways that we can actually manage our waste. To first of all, reduce the waste, reduce the way we can actually dispose these disposable things. The second one is to reuse, to be able to reuse things that we have already used. For example, the produced chocolates. After we eat chocolate, we can use a small chocolate containers to put our food and take them to school or take them to the market or take them to the job site or whatever. We can reuse these containers. It is good. We can also recycle. After eating these
but how many things are you going to reuse?
Seriously.
Madam Mabel, that is why I am saying that we need to improve on them. We need to improve on these things.
We already have substitutes, so we should start taking them now and have many sardine containers.
What I am saying is that we should have proposed 3 things, and all of them are possible. We can reduce, we can recycle, and we can reuse.
So
all of them.
So an individual should recycle?
Yes, an individual can invest in them. We have seen it. Tuber cancer in the northwest region. They have been producing ties. It is a personal initiative of the mayor. That is why I'm saying it is a personal initiative.
Look at
and an
me
individual can
now.
an individual can invest in it.
Just a member of the community. How can I start recycling? Maybe
you can invest in it. You can invest in it. It is possible.
I may not have money to even take care of my own family.
That is your limitation. Then you think about something else.
No, I'm talking for my community. If I live in Munya, where it's a poor it's a poor community, and you talk about they should start.
Everybody in Munya is not poor.
Do they understand?
Everybody in Munya is not poor.
Do they understand?
Sensitize them, educate them, let them understand. They need to understand. That is where the education starts from.
An individual. You talk about Chuba Council in the Northwest. Even if it came from an
I'm
individual,
quoting an example.
It is the council.
We
an
are almost
example.
folding the program, and I think that we use the next 8 minutes to educate the populace on the disadvantages that this poor management, refuse disposal cause, and the impediments that the poor refuse disposal brings to society. Do you think this comes with a lot of detriment to society? Poor refuse disposal. Do you think it comes with detriment besides the malaria it brings? Which other things? Sometimes you walk on the street, the pungent smells.
Yeah, the pungent smells. Also, we have inaccessibility to the roads. For example, when there is the waste has been disposed of
Poorly,
and there's an amassment of waste in a particular along the road, it gets into the road, and we the citizens, we have to struggle to find our way. Taxis, cars struggle to find their way. So one of the effects is that it affects even movement. Also, you cannot live in such a community comfortably because it's not just about mosquitoes, even snakes can harbor around such areas. So it's important for us to also see this as a personal, take on the challenge as a community. We can engage in community labor that can help us to improve on our community. Like when they talk about quarter heads, that's some of the responsibilities quarter heads can take, the challenge they can take to see that our communities are better off. That there are communities where you go to, they are clean enough because they have taken it as a responsibility.
this idea of keep Buea clean, keep Kumba clean, keep the town clean. At first, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 12 years ago, that thing used to be
It's
very,
still
very
existing.
much. It's existing, but I
Wednesdays,
mean
on
the
Wednesdays.
ideas of people coming out together on such days. The goal is keeping clean. You come out of your house and
Now keep Buea clean and keep Kumba clean is just about closing your shop, and after 12 o'clock you open it.
Yes.
That's all.
So you need to
be
get back
revamped
to yes.
or to be revisited.
Yeah.
And who are the appropriate authorities, Mr. Stefan? Do you agree with the keep Buea clean, keep the town clean, keep Kumba clean system? Do you think it's really going to be working as it has?
The idea is important. We cannot actually say that having a day to say keep Buea clean or keep Kumba clean is not relevant. It's really important. But do we need to wait for a day in a month to understand that we need to keep our environment? We need to keep our environment clean every day and every day. So we actually hope that maybe things get better and better for our environment to be what we are expecting.
Okay, I think we are going to be giving our final words to the program. We have come at the end of the program regretfully, but what do you have to say? Government has been criticized, individuals criticized, but still yet we still have to find a way to strike the balance. What is the balance for you?
For me, on the part of the government, I think the government should continue to outsource these
Remedies.
outsource the waste management to other companies so that there is some sort of competition. If we have more than one waste management companies, I think it's going to help. On the part of the citizens, I think, like we said, a lot of sensitization, and we should take responsibility to keep our environment, immediate environment. From our immediate environment, we shall affect. That's how the process will continue, and the whole of Buea,
It's a ripple
environment
effect.
will be affected.
Thank you. Mr. Teddy, your final word as we kiss this program goodbye. What do you have to say?
I want to say that poor waste management is a sin against God, a crime against humanity. It is a sin against God because they say cleanliness is next to godliness. And if you are not clean, it means you are committing a sin against God. We should try as much as possible that if you cannot find a trash can within where you have sucked your oranges, try to go some few steps further before you drop them. So at least we should be intentional. We should understand that our government is a failed government, so we should take things really personal. If you want to help to improve the system, start from your house, start from your society, start from your community, and God is going to guide you to go national.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stefan. I think you have the last straw that may not break the camel's back but improve it in order to carry more weight.
Mabel, my focus is on youth empowerment. We have said much about garbage and all that stuff. I want to talk to youth who complain of the fact that maybe they have projects and the government and this and that. I was talking about lobbying. Lobbying is not corruption, and there is no way you will see lobbying to be synonymous to corruption. When you read about lobbying, you understand that it's important. Every country applies it. Every country in the world, and people, great people or entrepreneurs understand the importance of lobbying. If you want to get to the next level, you need to master the notion of lobbying. That's all I want to tell you guys. Forget about what you have, forget about who you know. Read about lobbying, know how to approach people, how to persuade people. Even with nothing, you can become something.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time, for choosing Matters on High TV every 6 p.m. as for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I'm always your host, Mabel Camden. It's always good because we bring you animating political debate. And not only that, we are accompanied, the moderator is accompanied by gigantic minds who come to salute the program in a special way. Just to let you know that good governance starts with me. The you factor, it starts with you. Take charge of your responsibility, knows it, embrace it, do what you are supposed to do, and every other thing is just going to fall into place. While we point accusing fingers at government vis-a-vis waste, proper waste disposal, I think the community and the official community leaders are also not left out. The inhabitants and denizens also need to chase their own part of the bargain. See you next time. See you on Thursday. And also do not forget to keep up with other programs that are going to be brought to you right after Matters. See you next time. I have you, Mabel Camden. Bye-bye.